Hello and welcome to our overview of inclusionary practices for the Centralia School District. Together with the demonstration sites at the University of Washington's Herring Center for Inclusive Education, Centralia will be highlighting 3 different schools within their district, sharing each school's journey to developing stronger inclusionary practices with a concentration on reducing restraint and eliminating isolation. But before we begin our presentation today, I'd like to start with a land acknowledgement. The University of Washington acknowledges that we exist on the lands and the waters of the first people of Seattle, Lushootseed-speaking peoples, the Duwamish and Coast Salish people. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the many Indigenous people who still thrive in this place, alive and strong. We'd also like to give a little bit of context to our partnership. The University of Washington's Herring Center is contracted by OSPI and is a member of the Inclusionary Practices Technical Assistance Network, or IPTN. The IPTN is an intentional collective of technical assistance and support providers working together in partnership with OSPI and West Ed to increase inclusionary practices across Washington State. The IPTN envisions a future where every student in Washington State has improved access to rigorous and standards-based instruction and improved post-secondary outcomes based on their strengths, preferences, goals, and needs. The IPTN works to disrupt segregated systems and reduce exclusionary practices in Washington State schools. Its focus is on addressing the inequities to improve outcomes for all students, with a particular focus on those with intellectual and developmental disabilities and Black students eligible for special education services. Since its launch in 2019, originally as the Inclusionary Practices Project, or IPP, the IPTN has evolved to address systemic barriers that exclude these student groups from general education. State data continue to reveal inequities, with these students disproportionately excluded from inclusive settings. The UW Herring Center's work within the IPTN is committed to reducing restraint and isolation, expanding inclusive learning opportunities, and promoting inclusive and equitable educational environments statewide. The demonstration sites at the UW Herring Center for Inclusion continue to focus on highlighting inclusionary practices through partnerships with districts and featured schools, who graciously share their journey and invite visitors for transformational visit experiences. Although all of our demonstration site partners feature inclusionary practices, we now have 2 categories of demo sites. The first is the continuation of the inclusionary practices, or IP demo sites. And in the spring of 2023, we were pleased to welcome districts and sites highlighting practices to reduce restraint and eliminate isolation, or our RREI demo sites. Each demo site is on their own journey. Thus, high leverage moves align to individual school cultures and priorities. And for schools to have lasting impacts, district scale and sustainability are critical. I want to now introduce Tammy Jensen-Tabor and her Centralia School District colleagues, who are going to talk a little bit more about the district scale work that they've done in creating cultures of belonging and reducing restraint and isolation. Tammy?
Thank you. We are so excited in Centralia to be chosen as a demonstration site. I think that it's important, and you'll hear more later in this video from the principals that are doing the work in the buildings. But I want to highlight Dr. Lisa Grant, who has been leading this work for our school district. She is a former special education teacher and administrator, and her heart is with special education. She leads strongly with Dr. Jeff Broom, who is our teaching and learning individual. And you'll also hear today from Adam Moline, our BCBA. And you're hearing from me and Julie Athens, our ed specialist in special services. You will be hearing highlights today with more in-depth information as we go through the slides from the buildings. I think that it's really important to highlight our vision and our mission. We live these every day when you come to visit. If you get to come and visit, you will see that this has come to life. We really do believe that all students achieve academic and personal excellence, and we do that through prioritizing students, upholding high expectations, Championing hope, I think, is a huge one in our world, and then cultivating collaboration. Many of you know the James Clear atomic habits. So 1% better every day is what we live with, and a minimum of 1 year's growth in 1 year's time. And we do that very intentional work by making sure that students stay in their seats and can be involved in education, and that helps us with them if their behavior is improving, they're learning. So wanted to just make sure that we highlight that work. Now I'm going to give you just a little brief demographics of our school district. We're a fairly small school district, about 3,200 kids, 565 with IEPs. We have developmental preschool, one of them, 5 elementary schools, a middle, comprehensive high, alternative high, and then a virtual academy for 9 through 12, which you will see special ed students in all of these places. So then I just want to talk a little bit in the next slide about how multi-tiered systems of support is just a key pillar for our work. Coming out of COVID, we knew that we had to do a reset in our MTSS program. Dr. Howie Knopf came on site and started a training with district leadership, as well as building teacher leadership around what MTSS was, how it's going to work in terms of supporting students academically and behaviorally. You can see that, and I have to say a shout out to the RREI project, that we were able to send so many staff across the district. Every building was represented, going to the MTSS conference in Spokane this last summer. We also, just as part of all this work, everything comes together. Our social emotional learning, we have Character Strong as an adoption. We also have School Connect at our secondary schools. But also when students are brought to our student study teams as part of our MTSS process, the RREI grant was able to allowed us to buy these behavior intervention and learning intervention manuals, which are referenced when we're looking at how to support students. It's just so critical that we are looking at students in a holistic way, and the MTSS process is really helping us do that. And I'll hand this off to Julie.
This one's me. I'm just going to highlight a couple of the different professional developments that we've gone over. It's a lot more than just this over the last couple of years, but really focusing on everything from mental health to behavior and verbal de-escalation for as many staff who are willing to come. Also doing a couple creative ones where we offer a lot of different choices where staff can come to maybe 4 of any 10 different topics that they'd like to hear about. So they're not hearing about topics that they've been trained on a lot, and they can really tailor what they're interested in too. And also to say that we sometimes look internally and sometimes look externally. So school districts like Rochester have come to help do trainings on co-regulation and regulation. We've looked to our Cascade mental health outside providers in our community to do some trainings on mental health. Our motor specialists just did a great training on breathing, posture, and sensory strategies for a bunch of our different staff. So this has been one of those crucial pieces of instruction and training to make sure that we've got the skills when we actually are needing to use them. When it comes to these trainings, I think it's crucial to have some kind of social validity or kind of feedback metrics, so then we know where staff are feeling confident and not confident. I know of a lot of teachers who are kind of done hearing about the importance of relationships, and even if it's crucial, maybe that's just something we talk about briefly and then move on. But clearly de-escalation was something that our staff were asking for more of. So that was something that we really tried to do more training on, and we use their feedback whenever possible to have more opportunities for tailored trainings.
I think it's important to note in a district our size that we are able to bring together, every school district has to have a discipline committee, but now it's been blended together with a group of people that started last year in special education and then general education to talk about behavior. So behavior and discipline committee has come together. It represents everyone from our union folks to administrators. Transportation have people that come to the table, educational assistants or behavior specialists, because the work is all of our work. And so I think it's important to note that we are quarterly sitting in a room looking at data, talking about these, the issues for students and how to help them. And Adam, I'll turn more over to you.
Yeah, and I know it's a bit of a platitude to say it takes a village, but it's one of those things that is incredibly crucial as I'm getting more comfortable working in schools. I love to see things like this where we have a bunch of people from diverse backgrounds and different components of the school system coming together to talk about behavior and discipline. And just a few things that this committee has worked on, which I think have been great, are improving the teacher referral systems so then we have better and more accurate data, and then improving our data systems to look at patterns in our behavior data. And then a lot of the times little conversations about where we need to improve our systems or additional training topics come up in these trainings as well. So this has been a great combining of committees. I'm just going to review a couple of some of our RNI data from the last couple of years. These are OSPI numbers, except for this year, which has not been sent out to the state yet, but it's all reported very similarly. So on the y-axis, we just have the total frequency of restraint, which is orange, and then isolation, which is black. And then on the x-axis on the bottom is the school years. And if you just look at the trend is definitely going in the right direction. And I think we've been making some really good strides, particularly this year. I see our staff taking it upon themselves to really prioritize reducing restraint and trying to minimize isolation as much as possible. And it's reflecting in the data. And before anybody says anything about these not being a completed school year, I also graphed these data as averages across months. So the last 3 years is the average across 9 months of school year. And then this year is across just the 4 months through the end of December. So these are up to date. And it still shows that we're trending in the right direction and definitely reducing our restraints and isolation. So we're on the path, and I'm very proud of these data.
I think it's important for people to say, okay, so you're a demonstration site, but how did you get here? What was your journey? What was your path? And part of the path started in the 21-22 school year. We discontinued having any self-contained behavior programs at our secondary buildings. And it was just clear that integration with typical developing peers, resource room was the path for them. The next year, 22-23, we then discontinued our self-contained behavior program that we had at elementary. We also added, so kids are going back to their buildings. They've been in a self-contained program. What are the supports that we provided them? So that was the advent of adding more behavior specialists in our building in terms of BCBAs and RBTs. And then we had, like many school districts, we had a levy failure. And so we also had to look at how are we going to do this work. But I think that the district got stronger through all of that. And we still focused the work on what we needed to work on, which was helping students recover from the pandemic, as well as working on their behavior. And so we adopted the CEL curriculum that we're talking about. At preschool, we use ALS PALS, which connects to Character Strong, and then the School Connect at secondary, in which general ed teachers, for the most part, are delivering the social emotional learning. And then as we moved along, we discovered that we really needed to have, instead of a couple of BCBAs and RBTs across the district, that we needed to have one BCBA. And then at elementary, we have behavior specialists that are certificated positions, as well as behavior paras. And then the middle and high school have a version of that, as a version, meaning that whatever fits for their culture and their building to help with behavior. So I think that it's just important to know that when we moved students out to buildings, we provided supports, but everybody needs to understand that the work has been hard. It's the right work. We're on the right path, as you can see that Adam was sharing that data. And then for those of you on the next slide that are kind of wondering what programs we do have in the district, we have what you would think of as a resource room at every building, at K-12. We have an alternative high school. We have a resource teacher embedded there as well, who also helps with our students that are in open doors programs. We have one developmental preschool that's housed in one of our elementary schools. And then we have something called ILC-IAC, Intensive Learning Center and Intensive Academic Center. What many of you would think in terms of the ILC is like a life skills program, and the IAC is more the students that are sort of in between resource and life skills. And so they are included in these semi-self-contained classrooms. However, we don't really have anything that's self-contained. Students are going out to experiences with their gen ed students or peers every single day. So just to kind of give you an overview of what our programs are. And then we do send some students out of our district in terms of to meet their behavioral needs. We are a great partner with Olympic Academy, which is run by our Capital Region ESD 113. We have 7 students there currently, and we are in the process of transitioning some back. So our district connects and keeps connected with the students that go to Olympic Academy. In fact, just the other day, one of the general ed teachers that had one of our students that is at Olympic Academy said, "Can you tell me how he's doing? I need to know how he's doing. I really still care about him and want him to be back." So there's a great connection across all of our teaching staff.
Hi, and we offer several trainings after school on Mondays, our special services academies, and you can click on those links and see what we offer. But one of the things I'm really proud of is here, anyone can come to our training, a bus driver, anyone in the buildings, in the lunchroom, it's paras, teachers, school psychs, anybody who wants to come. So I think that's really important. And again, we use CPI, crisis prevention intervention. We do a lot of training. We have 86 of our staff trained, but our entire kindergarten through 6th grade has been trained on the morning portion, on verbal de-escalation. And we have a big focus on trauma, informed instruction, and the effects of toxic stress, and working with students who might be going through a lot of stress at home and grief, and how that can look like behavior, but other ways to deal with it to really reduce restraint and isolation as much as we can. And we're heading towards safety care training too, which Adam is going to be part of.
And I think it's important to know, that parents are a big player in our work with students in schools. And our staff, are always uncomfortable. People are uncomfortable about saying, "Oh my gosh, because your student has a 504 or is a general ed student or is a special ed student, that your student may be restrained or isolated if they're in imminent danger. And there's an imminent likelihood of serious harm." And so our staff said, "Tammy and Julie, can you put something together that makes it easier for us to explain to parents?" And so we put a parent-friendly handbook together, and a shout out to other districts that are doing this as well. We always, in education, we steal. So we are been helped by, I think Spokane School District was a great contributor to helping us. But this is the page that the staff use when they explain restraint and isolation. And it actually has led to some good conversations with parents. They're thankful to know that what the law is and what it's all about. I should also say that we take minutes at all of our meetings, and at the bottom of our minutes page, we say, we check the box. Did you offer the rights to the parents? Did you offer an explanation? Did you offer the explanation of restraint and isolation? So we're documenting that with parents as well. So that they really can understand. We don't want anybody to be scared or caught off guard. And then I'll hand it off to Adam.
Yeah, There's a lot that we're continuing to work on and systems we're continuing to build. And just a couple examples are protocols around one-to-ones or creating functional behavior assessments. Oftentimes our restraints and isolations are with our most challenging students, and they need the highest needs of individualized supports. And it's validating that when the new guidance for the FBAs was released just this last November, we didn't really need to make any changes. It was all aligned with what we've been working towards. And as we make more plans for how to get a one-to-one, how to fade out that one-to-one, how to increase independence, I see that this is all aligned to reducing restraint and eliminating isolation by improving student behavior and staff skills, essentially.
And you folks might be thinking, how the heck do they get all these trainings tucked in? So we, Julie and I and other people meet with all of these folks you'll see in the list on a monthly basis. And it's just, we are trying to tuck in the same information and align it throughout our months. And as Julie said, for me, it's a y'all come. If somebody misses the school psych meeting and they want to come to the school counselor meeting, we really work hard on getting parents in. It's always a challenge to get parents to come to meetings in the evening and things like that. But it's just, it is a work in progress, but we really, I think, are aligning the message. And the big thing that Dr. Lisa Grant, our superintendent, is also really keen on is making sure that we are connecting to the general ed side of the house. So we're aligning messages on both sides, which is the reason that general education feels so comfortable to come to the table and work with us. And then I also have the privilege of working with our mental health liaison. And because folks think, sometimes behavior has a mental health component. And so where does that fall in the role in our school district? We have had last year we had several mental health folks, but because the ESSER dollars went away, we're down to one mental health support specialist. And she works with buildings on teams, on student study teams. She's working individually or also linking families to services. You'll see some links here about success plans that buildings create with students. We always have after incident reports. Julie put together a debrief form after restraint and isolation because we need to when heads have settled to talk about how to do things differently the next time. I think that it's always important to know that we are considering mental health. And I think a funny story is that you'll see the purple down there. For those of you that don't know what a purple is, it looks like a great little toy, but it has a heartbeat, and the heartbeat will race if your heartbeat's racing, but it also will help you slow your heartbeat. And my funny story is that we have them in classrooms in our elementary, and a teacher was becoming escalated one day. And so a student went and got the purple and gave it to the teacher and said, probably you need to hold the purple a little bit, so that you can see that students are learning the benefits of de-escalating and calming and centering themselves. I think it's also important that people say, gosh, you have a lot of people and they're all working on behavior, and what is everybody's role? And so this document was created because, and I think of it as like we're all swimming in the same pool, but we need to stay in our lanes. Otherwise, sometimes we're giving cross messages or teams are confused as to who to listen to. So this is a fluid document. We review it on an annual basis. But this is part of the link also that you can see, but just so you can see who's doing what in our district, because everybody has a role. And from me all the way, across the entire plan that we're talking about in terms of our district's work. And Adam, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, just to close things out, I'd like to do a few shout outs just to the people doing some amazing work out there in Centralia. Our 4 behavior specialists who are now in their 2nd year are totally getting their feet under them and really coming into their own. Incredibly compassionate as first responders to these most challenging situations. And them, along with their behavior paras who have been doing this work for quite a long time in our district, they do a lot of different things, and really just starting by working on our tier 1, tier 2 systems, walkie systems, improving our behavior matrix across the district was something they did over the summer. The unstructured environments, a lot of trainings for our recess and hallways and lunchrooms has been some excellent work. And I really think the increased tier 2 capacity has been something that's been very beneficial. And I even feel the difference in some of our schools since some of these things have been improved. And we're still working towards improving, you know, how do we teach pro-social behaviors in the most efficient way possible. And I think one of the things that I've seen Centralia do an amazing job of, especially this year, is our gen ed staff and our special education staff have really come together and taken this upon themselves to all be teachers of behavior as much as possible, to reteach those expectations, particularly after breaks and after challenging times or disruptions in routines. And it's not something that 10 behavior staff in a district can do alone. This really is going to take a lot of staff, and I see them taking that on themselves to work towards that. We have a lot of work to do continually, but I'm really proud of the work that these staff have done, and I'm proud of being here. And for some more specific examples, I'm going to turn it over to our principals to continue to go into the hard work they've been doing. So thanks for listening.